All right, Browns down 9-7 at halftime. Could be worse, honestly. You knew this was going to be a a better game from the other team than it was last week. With the Dolphins, who are a consensus one of the worst teams in the league. So, this going from that game last week to this game against the Patriots, especially with it being on the road too as well, you got to have a little bit there. Offensive wise, they're doing okay. It's not the best thing. The first drive looked awesome. The opening script of that first drive, that's the Kevin Stefanski play calling that we want to see. The end around to, I forget his name, but the wide receiver that I think he's a rookie too this year. And then both the Fanning catches, one for like the 20-yard gain on the 3rd and long, and then the touchdown catch. So that's what you want to see. For anybody that's criticizing Kevin Stefanski's play calling, that Kevin Stefanski is what we need consistently, and then those critics will start to die down a lot. And they won't call for his job as much because the play calling is not as bad as it once was. But that's the challenge. You got to be able to get that consistently. The trick plays a little bit. I mean, I get why people would be annoyed at the trick plays. I get it. But at the same time, who's calling for Dan Campbell's job in Detroit? Who's doing it? Nobody, okay? And I get that the Lions are much, much better than the Browns, and that's a different team. But at the same time, Dan Campbell runs trick plays all the time, and no one ever critiques him for it, even when they fail. So this idea is, Kevin called trick plays because their team isn't very good. No. Then, Detroit has probably one of the best rosters in the entire league, and they call trick plays all the time. Does that mean their roster is horrible? No, it doesn't. So that argument is ridiculous. I've already seen a bunch of that. But, the offense is what it's going to be. They're not going to be a Detroit offense where they're going to be scoring 30-plus points every week. They're not that offense. I don't know why anyone thinks that this offense is going to be that offense. So, you got to be able to consistently capitalize on opportunities. I almost said Cade York. Schmidt, he's got to make the kick off the Schlesinger turnover. He's got to be able to make that kick. So, a little bit stuff like the little stuff like that where you got to be opportunistic. If the Browns want to win this game, they have to be opportunistic. They got to play like the Steelers do remember when the Steelers were like, they're not great this year. Like, their record says that they're a lot better than what they actually are. But, they play opportunistic. They capitalize on turnovers. They convert on third downs. They do all the things that you need to do right to chip away at teams, and then in the fourth quarter, they blow the doors off of them. So you got to be able to do that. But, the offense is what the offense is going to be. I don't really think anyone expects that to really change so far. Judkins, they're honing in on him. Gabriel's got to be able to make the Patriots respect him enough to lay off of Judkins, and then once that happens, Judkins is going to be able to get out and make some plays. Defensively, they're playing okay. I definitely think Myles Garrett is a huge factor, and that's great. You need Myles Garrett to be in this game as a factor. You cannot have this dry spell that he's had for a couple weeks before the Dolphins game, really. You can't have that where he's going games without sacks. You need him to be a factor in this game, and he has been that. I think he's got like 2.5 sacks so far, and the forced fumble, which the Patriots did end up recovering. But, you have that. The only thing I will say is you got to be able to get the Patriots off the scoreboard there and off the field at the end of the half there. The Browns had the sack. I think that was the forced fumble, actually, that drive, rather. You have that, and you have them on the false start. So it's a 3rd and 23. You got to be able to get them off the field there. You cannot allow them to get 20 yards. I think it was like 20 or 21 yards on the next play on a 3rd down. And then they call a timeout and kick a field goal, and they take the lead. Now, the Browns do have ball in the beginning of the second half, but you got to be able to get them off the field there. You can't allow points there, especially on a 3rd and 23 when you have them backed up out of field goal range. You got to be able to either get pressure or the safety's got to come up and make that play. So, and it was a dagger play. I get, like, the corner's going to get beat there in a dagger play. So, You got to be able to have one of your linebackers or safeties help you with the dagger, or you got to get pressure. And the Browns did neither. So, that's the field goal right there. It sucks, but the Browns do get ball at half, so we'll see what happens there. I don't know. We'll see. The Browns can honestly keep this close, and the Browns keep this close, they have a real shot. I don't think the Browns are going to blow out the Patriots in the second half. If anything, it's probably more likely that the Patriots blow out the Browns in the second half. But if the Browns can keep it close, then we got a real shot. Drake May looks kind of confused. He's had a few plays, but the Schlesinger interception and Myles Garrett being Myles Garrett again and getting to the quarterback consistently and making Drake May in the back of his mind say, "Where's Myles Garrett?" every single play. And sometimes that doesn't even matter, but you got to be able to have Myles Garrett in the back of your mind if you're the Browns defense. You got to have that quarterback always thinking about Myles Garrett, and then that way guys like Alex Wright and Carson Schlesinger, and then even Denzel Ward why am I not thinking about any other corners besides Denzel Ward? Tyson Campbell, there we go. I did get it. But, the corners got to be able to make plays there. The linebackers got to make plays. Devin Bush is actually having a pretty good game right now. He had the huge hit on the running back. But, you got to be able to – if Myles Garrett is in the quarterback's mind and he makes him kind of paranoid, then that opens the door for other players to make plays on that defense. So, this is still a game. The Browns are not out of it by any means. So I will see you at the end of the game. Hopefully the Browns win it. Honestly, I'm kind of thinking the Patriots kind of pull away in the second half. We'll see, though.